Today, I want to talk about Mel Robbins' new book, The Let Them Theory. If you're not familiar with Mel Robbins or her work, she just recently came out with a new book called The Let Them Theory. And so, what she says essentially about the Let Them Theory is this. She says, the Let Them Theory will teach you that the more you let other people live their lives, the better your life gets. The more you let people be who they are, feel what they feel, or think what they think, the better your relationships will be. Okay, on one hand, I so relate and identify. The reason that I say that is because when I was growing up, my mother would often say to me, how could you think that? Or how did you feel that way? What is wrong with you? When she didn't like what I was thinking, saying, feeling, or believing, she had a judgment about it and let me know. I hated that. I hated when my mom would do that. I felt, why can't I just be myself and say what I think, feel, and believe? I do feel that relationships can be better when you let people be who they are. Where I have an issue with the let them theory is that I don't think that it is that simple or that black and white to just say, let them. So if your boss is being overbearing, controlling, and you just say, just let him, or you have a partner or spouse that is continuously trying to control you and commenting and critiquing everything that you say and do. And in theory, the let them just as let them. Now, I know that Mel Robbins goes more in depth on how we can respond. If you want to read her book to hear more on her thoughts, then by all means, grab her book. But I'm going to share with you a little bit about what I think and feel about this. While I do agree that we cannot control or change people, places, and things, it's part of the serenity prayer that I absolutely love, which is God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change or control, the courage to change the things I can, which is just me, and the wisdom to know the difference. That prayer has been so helpful for me in my life. Now, here's the thing where I want to talk about the nuance or that there's an added layer or a deeper layer that we have to go to when we're saying just let them. Because if you have a wound with a particular person in your life, whether it be your mom, sister, a sibling, it could be your boss, it could be a spouse, a friend, and there's something that they continuously do or say that just gets you triggered or riled up, or as my kids would say, tweaking, it just continues to repeat and come up over and over again. Like that wound in you keeps getting punctured, poking the bear. And you can say all day long until you are blue in the face, just let them. But you may never, with that one particular person or situation, you may never stop saying let them because you're constantly being re triggered by it. So I believe that it's important to go deeper and to heal that wound so that it doesn't get poked as easily or as often. And as Dr. Shafali would often say, when we become whole, WHOLE, come into wholeness, then we fill the holes, HOLES, like Swiss cheese. When we fill those holes, we come into wholeness. And then we're less and less triggered. And there's less and less of a need to say, let them. So let me share a little bit about some specifics. Let me give you an example. One of the things that I have struggled with, and I'm certain that this is a pattern that I am repeating that my mom displayed with both my sister and myself is worry. And I think if you're a parent, you can 100% relate and identify. It is so difficult not to worry about your children, especially at any age. But I'm speaking more to when your kids are approaching teenage years, young adult years. And even I hear people that are still trying to micromanage and control their adult children. Like I'm talking about people I know that are in their 40s and their 50s who are still being controlled by their parents if their parents are alive. Going back to the worry and the anxiety that I feel when I'm making a judgment, basically, that my kids are making a wrong decision or a bad decision. And so I want to go into this place of trying to rescue, wanting to fix, wanting to micromanage, wanting to save. I write about so many different examples of this in my book, Free to Be a Pathway to Inner Liberation. If you want to hear more stories and how I've navigated this and what it looked like for me, you can go ahead and grab a copy. But what I would tend to do if I'm 100% honest is that I still have a tendency to want to control, wanting to fix, wanting to rescue, wanting to save because it's too uncomfortable for me to sit in the unknown. It's too uncomfortable for me to not know how things are going to play out for my kids. I don't want them to suffer or struggle with pain. I'm trying to help them avoid making horrible decisions. If you believe that all of life is here to teach us, which I do, I have a hard time always practicing it, but I do believe that all of life can help us grow. And every decision we make is an opportunity for us to grow. So, in part, I believe that there are no right or wrong decisions. And yet, when it comes to my kids making choices that I project might cause them some type of suffering, I go into control mode. I want to manage it all so that they don't crash and fall. So if we go back to that theory, I would say let them make those decisions. Let them fall on their face. They have to learn from their consequences. And maybe it might end up turning out perfectly fine. Who knows? I'm projecting that they might be, but I don't know that for sure. This is where I struggle. This is where the rubber meets the road. It doesn't feel that it's that simple. It doesn't feel that it's that black and white. There's energy rooted in this worry, anxiety, control, codependent behavior. The reason why is it's such an ingrained pattern embedded in me and playing out for me since I was little. I'm going to share with you because Melody Beatty is one of my all time favorite teachers on codependency. She writes books called The Language of Letting Go. I learned so much from that in the book Beyond Codependency. She says, many of us have suffered and are still suffering to some degree from a relationship with a dysfunctional person. Sometimes that person appeared in our childhoods, sometimes in our adult lives. Usually, we've had relationships with more than one dysfunctional person, and the pattern began in childhood. That supports what I was saying about how we have these patterns that are deeply ingrained. And it's not as simple as just saying, let them. I can tell myself, like over and over with my kids, just let them. And I will say sometimes it does give me that little bit of relief or a reminder that I'm going into a codependent pattern. I'm going into worry. I'm going into anxiety. When you say let them, it's an opportunity to pause. I would take it a step further let my daughter, let my son make the decision, make the choice they're going to make. I can feel the anxiety coming up. I can feel the worry coming up. I want to fix. I want to say something, to give advice. I want to micromanage. I want to teach them, show them. Like, can't you see that's such a bad decision? That's where I want to go. That's the old pattern. That's the old way of being. So I say, let them. That gives me the opportunity to pause. And then it's about turning inward. And then there are so many steps and tools and things that I teach when you make that turn and go inward into how you can heal the pattern, how to heal the wound so that it shows up less and less in your life. Or when it shows up, you're like, oh, okay, there's that pattern. I want to go into controlling. I want to micromanage and I want to fix. I want to rescue. Then you're like, that's a cue that to take the next steps of doing the healing work. I outline how to do this in my 5-step power pathway. And power is an acronym. P is for being aware of the pattern. You have to, first of all, be aware, right? If you're just being triggered nonstop 24/7 and you're just spiraling all the time, you're not aware that it's a pattern. You won't be able to change anything. And then the second step is being able to take ownership. Like, how can you take the responsibility to make the change? Just like we talked about with that serenity part. You can't control people, places, and things, only yourself. So you can own the fact that it's your job, your responsibility to make the change, make the shift. And then it's about going in and doing the reparenting, the nurturing, giving yourself what you need in that moment, sourcing your own safety. If there's one thing I would want to maybe say in this episode, is that it's so important in those moments that when you say, let them, that you follow that up with sourcing safety for yourself, because most likely that's what you're feeling. That's what you're experiencing is, which is why you want to go into control. It's about just giving yourself, sourcing that safety, giving some compassion, maybe some love to the part of you that is feeling scared and anxious and wanting to go into fixing, rescuing, micromanaging, or whatever it is. Whether you're a parent and do this with your children or with your spouse, or whether you do it with your friends or siblings, if you're in that place of you want to control, you want to fix, you want to rescue, you want to make them be different, you want them to be other than who they are, then yes, it's important to say let them. And it's important to go inward and heal that wound. Heal, just recognize the pattern. How can you be free from it? The opposite of control is freedom. So, what's possible for you and for your relationships is that when you do the healing work and you recognize that it's your responsibility to change the pattern, to heal the pattern, and you are able to let people be themselves, let go, you're less triggered, then there is actually that opportunity for you to have more meaningful relationships, deeper connections, because now you're able to be more present. So, for example, when I catch myself in that spiral of wanting to rescue, fix, control, micromanage my daughter, give her advice, oh, that's not a good decision. Or did you do this? Did you look for a job today? And I did not. It's probably, wow, stop. But when I catch myself and I go in and source my own inner safety, I'm able to be more present with her. When she comes to me and she's struggling with a particular situation, then I can just be a container and allow her to work her way through the situations and prove to herself that she can do it. So, this is true for whether it's with my daughter or my son. And honestly, my relationship with both are so much better because I am learning to take my hands off the wheel and I'm healing the parts of me that want to control. And then it's a little bit easier at this point to just say, let them. And so that's the potential for you to have more peace, more freedom, and the relationships that you desire. If you are listening to this podcast, you most likely found it because you, in some way, identify with being a people pleaser or a perfectionist. If you have some people pleasing tendencies or any of the content that I put out resonates with you, there's a good chance that your relationships are not super meaningful. They're not close. You don't have intimacy. You don't feel connected. And really, you feel lonely. And I get that because I have been there and I can still be there at times. And I'm still working on healing my relationships with others by healing myself first. And I think that's the other part of Mel Robbins' book, The Let Them Theory, is let them and let me. And the let me part is what can you do to take care of yourself? So I just wanted to bring that little nuance, I guess it is what I keep calling it, my this little niggling feeling that I had when I was reading the beginning of Mel Robbins' book. I was like, something doesn't feel quite right. Something felt a little bit off. And it's because I believe that there is this deeper layer and there's a little bit more to just saying, let them. If you're reading the book and you're saying to yourself, I can't just let them. Like I try, but they just bother me so much, or what they say or what they do, their judgments of me, their expectations of me are so triggering. I hear you that it isn't just that simple as just say, let them be themselves. There is more to it. If you're looking for even more on how you can uncover this work or do this work and heal even more, continue to listen to the podcast and subscribe, but you can get my book, Free to Be a Pathway to Inner Liberation. There's so much valuable content in there. And you can reach out to me if you want to work one on one. You can go to my website, kimgrosscoaching.com. You can book a call with me to see if we're a good fit. I can guide you on this journey to freedom. That's what I'm all about, helping people to be more free, have more meaningful relationships in their lives by doing the inner healing work. If you liked this episode and found it valuable and someone who could benefit from it, please share it with your friends or family. If you could subscribe, if you're on your favorite podcast platform, leave me a review. It really does help to get this content out to others. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you next time.